My name is Teresa Lockwood. I reside in Vineland, New Jersey, and I'm actually going to talk about these claims about people claiming that people are angry with God. I've heard it from a couple of false preachers, and well, they don't know what they're talking about. First of all, I've heard this statement by the false minister, rightly despised by people who do live in some sense of reality. They have like a small touch of reality, right? To know enough that people like Joel Osteen is a fraud, okay? A lot of flattery talk and, tickling your little fancy or whatever to gain, followers and, well, rob people from their money, whatever. So, anyway, look, so there was this statement, it was really terrible because, it was actually quoted by somebody who was, like, close to me, and, I had to talk to them about God. I'm not going to go there, but anyway, Joel Osteen makes a statement, and it says, those who are angry with God need to forgive God. And I'm like, forgive God? You don't forgive God? What do you mean forgive God? Did God sin? Did God do a wrong? That is crazy. That is, yeah, there is a lot of, delusional things that come out of these false preachers' mouths, and it's unbelievable, and it's really, really sad how actually people actually believe it. And that is how misled our world is, okay? And about the things of God. A lot of these people claiming God is just basically worshiping their own narcissism, is what is happening. It's really, really sad. So, the thing is that I was actually going to write this, a meme, and I don't have enough room to put it. I I have to do a video, so that's how that happened. I can record it. It's in front of me. Oh, my thing just clicked off. So, look, dealing with atheists throughout the years, there's a lot of anti-theist atheists who often try to post these pics about often blaming God for the suffering in the world. Okay? Blaming God for wars in the world, blaming God for children starving, blaming God for, horrific acts happening to people, right? And these are in basically atheist versus Christian forums. I've had like a few encounters personally in life. So the thing is, the reality is that they're not actually blaming God. They are not angry with God. Okay? And the thing is that they say all these things. Now, this is the thing. I have been a victim of all kinds of horrific things. Persecutions by churches, cult abuse, okay? Kidnapping, rape. I'm going through persecution, okay? My children, attacked by these churches, and I have just mad, evil cult leaders that's been pursuing me for years, out to destroy me. Actually, they actually admitted it, okay? And these aren't just like some person isolated somewhere, whatever. One of them is an ex-dirty cop, and when they retaliate with, their whole cult family. I'm not talking about only in their church organization. I'm talking about in their police organization. Okay? So they abuse power. They do all kinds of things. I've had bones fractured. I live in chronic pain. So, I mean, I've been threatened to be killed. I've been almost killed, literally. So, look, I have never thought, I want to put this out here first, because I think it's very important that I do not compare other people's belief that they have not experienced God to my experience with God, okay? I do not expect people to respond as I do, okay? So I just want to put that in there. I think that, yeah, that's very, very important. The thing is putting my experience with God first, to sit there and say, well, everybody has to see it this way, would be so ridiculous. Like, me seeing and experiencing the things that I do, I also have been through my experiences, maybe not with that, but have, in a way, still walk through life being blind to a lot of other things. Okay? And I've even questioned myself with that. Like, how come I've experienced that, went through this, right? And then when I encounter something, like, I blindly go through it like it's something new, right? I have challenged myself with these things. So, like, how does that happen? But it is an interesting, that's another interesting experience, and just more knowledge, so that is an experience in itself. Okay, so the thing is that I did have a spiritual experience with God when I was around 7 years old. The church cult that I was in did not even teach those things. They often taught things that was like made, the things of God and things in the Bible, like, so different, like a story. Like, I can understand a lot of how atheists, anti-theists were, and a lot of them basically grew up in churches, right? And the thing is, I mean, I just told, like, an atheist who's a police officer, like, I can understand, why they're saying those things, because the thing is that's what the preachers do. The problem is, when people claim that they're angry with God, or they hate God, or they don't believe in God, God is not even in their conversation. Like, they are, they're not even blaming God. Okay? My experiences with this, when I've encountered many atheists, I basically, I had to repeat myself, over and over a lot of times throughout the years, because they're different people, everybody's, individual encounter with me, and they all have the same responses. A lot of it is cookie cutter. They are just cookie cutting what they hear other people say, okay, blindly. But the thing is, a lot of it is, they're having this real question, like, how can people, I'm sorry, my thing just came up, hold on, I got an itch. It's just like, how can people believe in God? And, they claim that there is no God and all these other things. Now, my point is with that statement is that, first of all, if you claim there is no God, you are claiming that you know everything. So that's not even a logical statement. It's more right to say that you cannot identify who or what God is. So therefore, you cannot put a belief in things you do not know. And, there's a lot of people who claim to be church people who do not know God and claim that people have to claim God. Okay, and yet, they're just, their statements are like, have nothing to do with God. Okay, I have not, out of all the thousands and thousands of people online that I've encountered that claim to be Christian, and in real life, not, well, it's all real life, but and personal interactions, I have not heard one other person talk about anything of a knowing that they know the things of God. Okay, I grew up in churches all my life, and just about, like 7 to even 10 times, okay, even sometimes more, a week in church societies, okay, most of my life. So the thing is I never conformed to them, never believed in what they believed. I did believe in my experience that I had with God that was in conflict against these churches who use God's name in vain and do not project anything about God. So anyway, I've had these experiences. I used to have a domestic violence group online, and I've heard stories that are, it's not, I tell them, not to compare or whatever, but, there's, I could sit there and say sometimes it's worse than my story. I'm not depleting that, one story is less than the other or whatever, and, or just as traumatic for one or the other. It's all traumatizing. I mean, from different things that I've experienced in life. Like, I know, before even that other thing happened, it's a traumatic experience going through it. And, I never thought to be angry with God or question God, but I never put what my experiences is on somebody else. Okay, so, I had one story where somebody, said that they basically, were, repeatedly raped throughout years. I didn't want to say that. It just felt very, terrible. But, at gunpoint or whatever and all these things. And, you could tell that they were just really, really, what they were writing, very, very, traumatized still. I mean, I have been, I still go through trauma through my, I'm gonna move on, okay, because I have to move on. But, okay, so there's just horrible things, that, happened, and there are people who claim they hate God, they blame God, they do all these things. I've never questioned, been angry with God, made, complained about the things of God, and there's some other preacher who was teaching that, and, apparently encountering an atheist, and, the thing is, like I said, a lot of atheists, there's atheists who just cookie cut copy each other, and claim that, that's like this thing in atheism, or anti-theism, atheism. There's atheism, very, very broad. It's used broadly for, different people. There's atheists who, it's not a rejection of God, they just can't identify God, so therefore, it's just a non-belief in God, or whatever. It's not a disbelief in God. So, I actually had to clarify that for atheists about what atheism is. So, but then again, there are people who basically claim to be atheists because they just want to justify their evils. Then I actually have experienced the same thing, that there are a lot of people who claim to believe in God because They actually believe that God is the evil God that some atheists present to claim without understanding, falsely claiming that God is evil or what have you when it has something to do with God. Okay, so anyway, yeah, and they're both basically, okay. Oh, I'm gonna go on. So, yeah, so the one who claims God is actually, I could sit there and say they're worse off, or whatever, just there and claim that God is evil, to sit there and justify their evil. Of course, there's this atheist type false version of Jesus, the Antichrist Jesus type deal, where these churches are trying to present this atheist type version of Jesus, where Jesus justifies their sins, the same thing, given to them the same thing that atheists claim, where it's just like, they don't have to answer to nobody and all these other things or whatever. And, yes, there's a false version claiming Jesus that is so atheistic, that is unbelievable. Now, I believe a lot of these churches are atheists. So I'm going to go on from that. This is the thing. I cannot, like I would not blame another person. This is what I say to atheists throughout the years. I'm just like, because I've been questioned, now, not because of what I went through, but they were like, oh, all these things happen in the world, and, and I'll put some things out there. I'm like, I went through all these things. And I was just like, why would I blame God for what other people do? The things that other people do in their evil is the rejection of the things of God. Okay? And I did basically give my understanding that atheism is not, the rejection of God, but some atheists who claim to atheism, present their rejection of God. But the thing is, most of the time, 99% of the time, they're not rejecting God. The only thing that is in relation to rejecting God is rejecting anything that is right and willfully committing evil acts, okay? Knowing what is right, okay? The thing is, I can blame, in regards to saying I don't blame other people for things that people do, I can't blame churches for what they do. The problem is there's a lot of evil, wicked leaders who present themselves to be of God, who do vile, evil, wicked acts. Okay? And people relate that to what God is all about. Because of the deception. That's what deception does. It deceives people. Okay? So, the thing is that there's another problem, that a lot of churches are leading people to themselves, well, because they're false leaders, and that God is a person, relating to God being a person, and do not actually talk about things of God, but they just put the term God on whatever they say. And this is a problem I've had in conflict with over the years, encountering church people. Okay? And so I found myself ministering basically the same to atheists and those who falsely claim to be Christian. Okay? So the thing is that, I've had a spiritual experience with God when I was around 7 years old. Okay, that's, I don't say that, I'm not going to say that that's like symbolic or has a meaning or whatever. I'm just averaging around 7 years old. And the thing is it was in the middle of the woods. It was unrelated to the churches I grew up with. And I was unable to tell anybody about it because I actually had no words to explain what I experienced. Okay? So, I couldn't tell anybody anything. It did change how I saw my whole environment, it completely altered. Okay. Um, there was just a complete newness of thought of how I encountered things. And my experience was not something pleasant either. Um, it wasn't like, like I was a child and I, I experienced the the holiness of God and the evilness that opposed God. Okay, I did talk about my spiritual experience on that, but I'm not going to get too deep into that at this point. Okay, so it would be that of heaven and hell, but hell is not basically like they see in pictures. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with, fire and all these things or whatever. Um, so these pictures you see with people like, screaming or whatever. Now, yes, the Bible does describe, hellfire and, and things like that, the lake of fire and things like that. So, but they are symbolic terms to describe separation from God, actually. So, the thing is, my experiences was a seed that basically planted in me by God that altered and separated the way I viewed things. And it was an alter between from my experience from before till after. And an example that I realize is, we would like actually pray around the table, sometimes standing, sometimes sitting, or whatever, before a meal, every dinner time. And I would always sit next to my dad, and we would hold hands around the table. Okay, and I loved it when my dad prayed. He wasn't my real biological dad. I was adopted into this family, and after my spiritual experience, when my dad prayed, it was different. It altered. It wasn't something evil or anything like that. It wasn't the same. So, what happened is where I had my spiritual experience in the woods. Even I didn't even have those words to sit there and call it a spiritual experience. So, I mean, it was, I just didn't have those words. So they were very traditional. I would say like sleepers, if you will. The term I didn't use then or didn't know about then, but and the thing is that okay, just all right. So the thing is this is why I actually asked a church who was persecuting me, in my 20s, going into 30 or whatever. I don't know how old I was at the time. I think around 28, 29, something like that. I asked them if they believed it was the false pastor who's persecuting me. We're in a war, literally, and I asked them. I said, "Do you believe that it's God that brings us to prayer?" And I was thinking about my spiritual experience. This is what I was thinking about, and so I was under heavy distress. Going through a trauma, and I was actually brought there. I think it was a setup, by the way, but apparently, attacked at my job, and basically brought to the church, who basically, were persecuting me, cultically abusive or what have you. And the thing is, so I just asked him that because, I mean, I was being persecuted with them. They were very, very cruel and abusive to me, and I wanted to see his response to that. And of course, the only thing he said was, I believe that God initiates us. So he's trying to make all excuses for that answer. Anyway, I'm going to go back to my childhood. So the thing is that, yeah, it was God who drew me into, praying spiritually. You know, before, I didn't know there was any such thing as praying in spirit like that. Okay? So, not like that. So, you know, when my dad prayed that night after I had my spiritual experience, I remember looking up at him, and watching him pray, and it was, like I said, it was separated. You know, it wasn't something evil or bad or anything like that or whatever. It was separated, and I just had this yearning to pray. So I didn't, I didn't pray then. I didn't. It was strange because what happened was, it's like I actually waited to the next day, morning, and ran out to my spot where I had my spiritual experience, climbed the tree, and basically prayed to God. I didn't have the spiritual experience in the tree, but it was just like, I went back, in this way that trying to find this spiritual experience, just as I did before. It was really, really strange. And, so it was, something that happened that just split everything in half. Okay? So, and that's how I encounter a lot of, my thinking, where a lot of things are, I have to divide in half and unite what is divided. And,